So today we have verses 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23 lined up. And of the chapter 14 of the Bhagwad Gita. So I'll start with verse number 19. Nanyam gunebhya kartaram yada dreshtanupashyati गुणेभ्यश्च परं वेति मद्भावं सोऽधिगच्छति. So the verse translates to, when the seer or the wise one perceives no agent other than the guna and knows the higher beyond the gunas, he attains my being. So let's take this up word by word. Na is no, anyam is others, gunebhya. So gun is the gunas, gunebhya becomes than gunas. Kartaram is someone who does or acts or an agent. Yada, when, drishta. Drishta we are translating to the seer or the wise one, but basically it's a person who sees. And very often in the Bhagavad Gita, you may recollect, we have been saying that the person who sees that sees. So there, what it means is that you actually experience what is being said here. So drishta we are translating to seer or the wise person. Anupashyati, perceives. So it's beyond seeing actually. Gunebhya is than the gunas. Cha is and. Param is higher. Veti is knows. Mad bhavam. So mad is my, bhavam is being, sah he or that person, adhigachati attains. So when the seer perceives no agent or actor other than the guna or the qualities and knows the higher beyond the gunas or the qualities, he attains my being. So let's chant it together. नानन्यं गुणेभ्य कर्तारं यदा दृष्टानुपश्यति गुणेभ्यश्च परं वेति मद्भावं सोऽधिगच्छति. So now we are reaching the end of the 14th chapter of the Bhagwad Gita. And in the last portion of Bhagwad Gita, the Lord is telling us, Lord Krishna is telling us how a wise seeker conducts oneself and becomes one with the Brahman. And amongst this set of verses, this verse is the key. It's one of the key verses because it is presenting before us the essence or the core method to attain Brahman. So see, in this chapter, we have been talking about the gunas, what are their symptoms, how do they affect us, how do they bind us. And this is the bind. Gunas, as I told you, in Sanskrit, that means fiber or strand, which means something which connects us or keeps us grounded to the world or to the body. So Lord Krishna is now telling us a simple solution of letting go of the bond or freeing ourselves from the bondage of the gunas. And that is to go beyond the gunas, right? Or transcend the gunas. Where that is where Brahman is, God is. It's like, earthquake happens on the earth. If you're on the earth, you will definitely feel it. If you are flying in a plane, even at the same point, you will not experience it. So once you transcend the gunas, you have freed yourself from the clutches of the gunas or from the bond of the gunas. So what is the essence? The direct path to liberation or self-realization or moksha is to get away from the clutches of the or get away from the clutches of the world, is to rise above the three gunas. So all the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas, we have to transcend the gunas. So we will be liberated only when we get beyond sattva, rajas, and tamas. So what is implied? The implication here is that God is beyond the gunas. And this was covered in fair amount of detail in chapter 3, and we had revisited it in some amount of detail in chapter 7. And therefore, I'm going to quote before you some of the verses of these previous chapters. I do this, I can just avoid uh, the linkages, but it is always a good idea to go back to the verses and see how far back in our journey, or as we are reading the Bhagavad Gita, was this point covered. So I will mention the chapter and the verses so you can go through it at leisure. So verse number 5 of chapter 3, which said that no one can remain inactive even for a moment. All are made to act helplessly, indeed by the qualities born of Prakriti, nature. Then verse number 27 of chapter 3, this was the Karma Yoga chapter where we were talking about the technique of right action. So verse number 27 read that actions in all cases are performed by the gunas of Prakriti. One who is deluded by egoism thinks I am the doer. 28th verse of the same chapter read, but he, O Mahabaho, with true insight into the distinctions of gunas and action, knowing that gunas as senses abide in gunas as object, is not attached. This was important because what is it saying? That when I am talking and you are listening, it is my gunas which are expressing themselves and it is your gunas which are experiencing. So it is the entire transaction is actually taking place in the material layers. And this in the previous chapter we understood as the kshetra, right? So this was the 28th verse of chapter 3. Now, the difference is, see, in those chapters, we were really not talking at the uh, at a higher level. We are talking at the individualistic level. So we associated it to ego and things of that kind, right? Now we are having a holistic view of the same thing of what we had read then, of the gunas. Then verse 12 of chapter 7 read, and whatever natures that are there, sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic, know these as from me alone or from Brahman alone. I am not in them, but they are in me. So, this is what we had covered then. And of course, chapter 7 had also talked about the higher and the lower nature of Brahman, which we covered towards the beginning of this chapter, right? The key point is that God is not a product of the gunas or is not composed of the gunas. The gunas are expressed or manifestations of God. They are within God. So gunas, in any case, do not limit or curtail God. And we have been reading that all actions are performed by the gunas of Prakriti. This has to be understood, that it is because of the gunas, which is an expression of the nature, we are perceived as doing something, right? Or someone is acting, or someone is, let's say, eating food or listening. Brahman by himself, or the higher nature of Brahman, has no expression. It is, and neither does the lower nature of Brahman, which is the gross and the subtle matter, the material layers. It has no expression. It is only when the two combine that life emerges or manifestation occurs, and Brahman expresses through Prakriti, and gunas are born of Prakriti. So Brahman expresses through Prakriti and gunas are part of Prakriti. So it is because of the gunas that Brahman is able to manifest, materialize, and express as the pluralistic phenomenons of this world. And in chapter 7, if you will go through it, you'll realize that we'd already talked that the ignorant are caught up in this display of matter, the world, environment, universe, and they remain at that level, at the material level, seeing only the play that is before them, missing the enlivening force or the Jeev Bhoot or God or Brahman. The wise one, however, understands the play of gunas on that immaculate Brahman. So, it's just like when you enter a hall, you've gone for a movie, you reach early, you enter the hall. What do you see in front of you? It's a white, serene screen, right? There's nothing on that that's happening. When the projection system starts, the movie is projected on the same screen. The screen now takes over hues of colors and movements, right? So it is similarly, I mean, it's a similar case of the gunas playing on that immaculate Brahman. So the gunas are now being projected on the serene, immaculate Brahman, just as the movie is projected on a white screen. So, what God is saying, or what Krishna is saying, that we must learn to dissociate the gunas from the God, from the underlying principle, or from God, or from our soul, or from Brahman. So this is the peeling of the layers that we had covered chapter 7 onwards. And what happens is that when we reach the state, we are able to see gunas playing on us also. I mean, so see, one is that you see the gunas in someone else. So as someone is acting funny or is weird or is lazy, you say, oh my God, he's so tamasic. But so that is an objective perspective. You're able to see it in someone else. When you deserve, you understand, you inculcate that ability, you will see the gunas functioning in yourself, in ourselves. So we are able to understand directly, firsthand, how Brahman is enabling my nature. So at times, I am that person who, is able to solve a problem and, do great work. And half an hour later, I wonder, oh my God, what came over me that day? Or, half an hour back, it was a brilliant performance of mine, right? I myself uh, uh, am unable to understand, you see, and I wonder what happened to me. So I'm realizing the play of gunas, or how Brahman is actually enabling my nature. And what the verse that I just quoted, I also realize that I'm neither the doer nor the enjoyer. It is all happening by itself in a different plane. And it is then that I become the seer or the drishta, or one who is able to understand what's happening, right? And not only me, everyone. So we then understand how God enables all of us through the gunas. So sometimes you say that, "Oh, please don't talk to me just now. I'm just tired and I can't think." So we have reached that state of tamas for whatever reason. So we are different from the gunas. So the more we dissociate, we are detaching ourselves from the material layers, and we are going more and more inwards towards Brahman, or we are moving to the higher state of consciousness. It's like we have woken up from a dream. So once you wake up from a dream, so you suddenly wake up. thinking, from a nightmare, and you reach out for a water and you drink, and then you say, oh my God, that was just a dream. Similarly, once you dissociate from the gunas, you reach that state of Brahman. You start moving that there, and then you say, okay, what was I so much bothered about? It was just my gunas, or the gunas, which is a manifestation of Prakriti that was functioning, right? I am beyond that. So, this is what the verse is saying, that there is no actor other than the gunas. And once you know that, you get beyond the gunas and you attain Brahman. So this was verse number 19. Let's move on to verse number 20. गुणानेतानतीत्यत्रीन् देहि देह समुद्भान् जन्म मृत्यु जरा दुःखेर विमुक्तो अमृतमश्नुते. So the embodied one, having crossed over these three gunas, is completely freed from birth, death, old age, and pain arising from the body, attains immortality. So let's take this up word by word. Gunas, etan, these, atitya, having crossed over, treen is three, dehe is one who has embodied, who has a body. Dehe is body, dehi becomes dweller in the body. Deha Sambudhavan becomes arising from the body. Janma Mrityu Jara Dukhe. So Janm is birth, Mrityu is death, Jara is old age, Dukhe is Dukh. So the whole word becomes from birth, death, old age, and pain. Vimukta is completely freed. Amritam is that immortal or immortality. Ashnute is enjoys. So the embodied one, having crossed over these three gunas, is completely freed from birth, death, old age, and pain. All these arise from the body, attains immortality. So let's chant it together. गुणानेतानतीत्यत्रीन् देहि देहसम्बुद्वान् जन्म मृत्यु जरा दुःखेर विमुक्तो
Amritam.
अमृतम्. So see, the self is immaculate, blissful, content, and all the qualities that we have read, right? It has no boundaries. Now, the self, when is associated with the gunas, becomes limited. Immediately, the boundaries appear, becomes curtailed. And this is manifested as an individual being, yeah, as us. So the self plus the gunas constitute a human being. Earlier, the equation, if you remember, was the self plus desires is equal to the human being, right? Now we have come to a higher level. We are talking of the gunas. It's the same thing actually, because gunas will ultimately lead to desires. So, but basically the self and the gunas combine to make a human being. Now, that means in me, both the gunas are there and Brahman is there, God is there. It is up to me to identify either with the gunas, the material layers, or with Brahman, right? So one identification, which is with the gunas, will bind me. Bind me to what? To activities, desires, vasanas, birth, death, so on and so forth, right? And the other will take me towards God. So it will liberate me. Now, when we are talking of the binds or the gunas, the words, the items that are presented in front of us, birth, death, and old age or decay of the physical body, they're all associated with pain, right? So identification with these will result in pain and sorrow. And the ignorant people, again, revision of chapter 7, ignorant identify with the gunas, and the wise one identifies with the self or the Brahman. Now, in this verse, Krishna is explaining to us what happens when we go beyond the gunas. In the previous verse, he was saying that go beyond the gunas, right? So now in this verse, he's telling us what happens when we go beyond the gunas, and the consequence is simple. We are liberated, released from the pain and misery, and not in the next birth. It is right here and right now. Right now, the moment I start disassociating with my physical body, with my nature, it'll function. See, I will grow old. My Rajasic nature will continue to function. My Sattvic and Tamasic content will also continue to express itself. But the moment I rise above it, I am relieved of that pain and misery right now. The moment this disassociation is done, because we have moved beyond the gunas, we go beyond. I have gone beyond the material layers, and therefore the laws of nature which are functioning at the level of the material layers do not affect me. So same example of a person that is flying in the air does not feel the earthquake, right? It's the same example. So you might be at the same point where the earthquake is happening, but if you are let's say 10,000 feet above this earth, you will not feel the earthquake. You're on a different plane. So the person is not identifying with the body, mind, and intellect. And this is what is making, giving the person the ultimate freedom from the influence of Prakriti, which is what is making us immortal, or I taste Amrit, right? And the moment I start identifying with the material layers, of course, I'll be identifying with birth, disease, old age, death, and I'm stuck with this. Now, if one was to ask anyone, do you want to be sorrowful or you want to be happy? Answer is simple. Of course, I want to be happy. Who wants death? Who wants pain? Right? So, what is stopping us? What is stopping us is that we are unable to get beyond the gunas. We are unable to rise beyond that. The roadmap, the blueprint is in front of us. So we are not able to get beyond the material layers. And that is because we are unable to give our attachments. Now, why are we unable to do that? Because the gunas are continuously pulling us. Sometimes it is tamas in us, sometimes it is rajas. So when tamas is there, you say, I don't want to get up just now. When rajas is there, you want to earn another crore. And, when sattva is there, okay, sattva is more pure of the other gunas, but it still binds you to knowledge, right? That is what we had discussed. So the gunas keep binding us. So maybe Swami will get attached to his ashram and would think of, expanding it so that instead of 100 Vidyarthis, he can have another 100, so you get attached. At whatever level you are, you get stuck. And this pull or this attachment does not let us consistently pursue our spiritual path. So this concept has to be understood that the gunas, any of the three gunas or all of the three gunas, they are the cause of misery because they keep us pulling into the world. And because of the activities, we generate more desires. When we've gone through those cycles in chapter 3, 4, and where we talked about how to perform action in the spirit of service and sacrifice and so on and so forth. So, but The desires or the vasanas are the cause of birth. And once you have taken birth, death is just behind it. It's like a shadow. It's a natural consequence. Their birth and death are the two sides of the same coin. So, to attain that eternal bliss or that eternal level, blissful level, we have to go beyond the gunas. And see, you will be coming across this combination of birth, disease, old age, and death in our scriptures again and again. So, Upanishads mention it. Bhagavad Gita, this is not the first time it's mentioning, and I will just revise that with you where all we read it. I mean, just the last time that we read it. But birth, disease, decay or old age, and death are the four primary miseries of the material layer. And these are the things that we actually don't want to experience. And last we read it about them was in the previous chapter, uh, chapter 13, verse number 20, where we were listing the qualities of a jnani. So a wise one was supposed to be one who does not have perception of or reflect on pain, suffering of birth, death, old age, and illness, because he has risen beyond that level. And the term that was used was in that particular verse, verse 20 of chapter 13, was Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, Dukha, Dosha, Nudarshanam. So that was with reference to experiencing of that of Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, Dukh, right? So the same thing. The typical changes that are taking place in our body are we are born, so birth, then we grow, decay, may have disease, and death. And in all these phases, there is pain and suffering. A jnani is one who is objective as he or she is passing through those phases, because the identification is not with the body, it is with God. So, different level or a different plane. So, the jnani is not, though he experiences the pain, it does not affect him. So, all the pain and suffering of these phases does not bother a jnani. And interestingly, I mean, centuries later, of course, our scriptures date to maybe 4,000, 5,000 BC. When Buddha went on the spiritual path, what was the catalyst there? When he went out of his palace, one day he saw a sick person and he thought that, okay, if there is sickness in the world, even I'll become ill one day. When he saw an old person, again, Buddha thought that if there is old age, then even I'll become old one day. And then he saw a dead body being carried. So he said, okay, if this is also part of existence, then even I will die one day. So now the difference between Gautam Buddha and us is that that incident, that one incident was enough for Buddha's intellect, which was so perceptive, that he said that, okay, let me pursue the path of God and reach that eternal bliss, which is beyond the suffering that I have seen in front of me. So factually, the soul is always immortal. Be it Gautam Buddha's soul, your soul, my soul, or a Jnani's soul, the soul within us is immortal. It is the identification with the material body that makes the soul suffer birth and death. And because you see, your soul is ever blissful, complete, perfect, but we are containing it because of the vasanas or the gunas. It is an experience which is against the nature, eternal nature of the soul. Therefore, it continues to seek release from this bondage, from this bind, and to escape this cycle we have to go beyond the gunas, which is what will lead to our liberation, or we will taste amrit or attain moksha. So actually, this is a place where the topic is concluded by Lord Krishna. Right. Now, let's move on to verse number 21. where Arjun has a question. So let's chant. Arjuna uvacha Kerling स्त्रीन गुणानेतान् अतीतो भवति प्रभो किमाचार कथं चैतान् स्त्रीन गुणान् वर्तते. So the verse translates to Arjun's, this is Arjun's 11th question. Arjuna asks, what are the marks or symptoms? What are the marks of one who has crossed over the three gunas, O Prabhu? What is his conduct? And how does one go beyond the three gunas? Okay, let's take this up word by word. Arjuna Vach, Arjuna spoke, care. By what? Linge, or marks, symptoms. Three guna is gunas. Etan, these. Atit bhavati, has crossed over. So you have passed that stage. So Atit bhavati becomes has crossed over. Prabhu is O Lord. Kimachar. So Kim is what? Achar is his conduct. Katham, how. Cha and Etan, these three gunas is gun. Ativartate, goes beyond or transcends. So Arjuna asks, what are the marks of one who has crossed over the three gunas, O Lord? What is his conduct? And how does one go beyond the three gunas? So let's chant together. Arjuna uvacha Kerlinge Srina Gunanetan Atito Bhavati Prabhu Kimachara Katham Chaitan Srina Gunanati Vartate. So now Arjun is keenly following what Krishna is speaking. And he's long back come out of the stupor which we experienced in at the time of chapter 2 and okay, chapter 1, which we did not do. So Krishna is telling him to transcend the three gunas. Arjun poses three specific questions. The first is that what are the marks of those who have transcended the three gunas, implying what are his features? How does such a person look like? How do I understand that he is transcended the gunas? The second one is that how does such a person who has transcended the gunas conduct himself, or what is his lifestyle? And how do I, or how does anyone transcend the three gunas? So, how to get beyond my vasanas? That is what is being asked. In short, what is the nature of a liberated being? Now, you may recollect that in chapter 2, which was the Sankhya Yoga, where actually Lord Krishna had given the complete philosophy to Arjun, there also, the verse number 54, Arjun had asked the same thing. At that point of time, he had asked that what is this description of one of steady wisdom? That is the level that we were talking at. So, what is the description of one of steady wisdom or a sthit prajna immersed in supreme consciousness? So at that point of time, he wanted to know the manner and conduct of a sthit prajna. Here, once again, Arjun desires to know the character and conduct of a wise person who has gone beyond the three gunas. So see how much like Arjun we are. All of us have the same questions that Arjun is asking. And we want to know what are the symptoms of such a person. How does such a person behave in the world, or how do I know when I've reached that state? And how do I actually go beyond the gunas? So we must appreciate our scriptures because they are presented in a question answer mode, you see. So these are the like the FAQs that you have, and they cover 99 or 98% of the questions that arise in nearly all of us. With that, let's move on to verse number 22. श्रीभगवानुवाच प्रकाशं च प्रवृत्तिं च मोहमेव च पाण्डव न द्वेष्टि सम्प्रवृत्तानि न निवृत्तानि काङ्क्षति. So the Lord said, light, activity, and even delusion, O Pandav, he hates not when present, nor longs for them when absent. Let's take this up word by word. Shri Bhagwan Vach, the Lord said, Prakasham is light, Cha everywhere is meaning and, Pravritam is activity, and Moham is delusion, Ev even, and Pandav is, of course, a name for Arjun, son of Pandu. Na is not. Dveshti, hates. Samprivratani. So when present. Na not. Nivritani, when absent. Kankshati, longs. So the Lord said, light, activity, and even delusion, O Pandava, he hates not when present, nor longs for them when absent. Let's chant the verse again. With this, Shri Bhagavanuvach prakasham cha pravrittim cha mohameva cha pandava na dveshti sampravrittani na nivrittani ankshati. So the first question of Arjun is being picked up by the Lord and he starts giving the answer. So we have covered that essentially the way to transcend the gunas is to disassociate with them. So elections are happening in some district in Sri Lanka. Are we worried? No, because we are not associating with Sri Lanka. But if it was in even a a constituency election in Delhi, we would be very much concerned, or in Noida. So why? Because we are associating with that uh, at that level, right? A wise person is not associating with the material layers. So equanimity is the hallmark of a man of perfection, or a person or a woman of perfection, or a person of perfection. And this was one of the qualities of the Gyani that we did in the previous chapter. So for a person of perfection, whether you have something or you don't have, it's the same. It doesn't matter. So he does not hate the effects of the three gunas in himself or herself, nor does he crave for the presence of any of the three gunas in himself or herself. He or she lives carefree of the vasanas. Don't worry too much about the he and the she bit. It applies to everyone. It's just a manner of speaking. So basically, such a person is beyond the gunas. Such a person knows that the sattvic content in him will continue to function in a particular manner. The rajas will also function, the tamas will also function, right? He does not get hassle. Oh God, when will I become sattvic? When will my sattvic content increase from its current level? It's okay, you work towards something, but you are not detesting a guna, or nor are you attaching yourself to a guna. So whatever vasanas are there, such a person lives carefree of those vasanas. He lets them function. The only care we have to take is that we should not allow more desires, more vasanas to accumulate. So, the best example that I could think of here, maybe there are more, is that suppose you are dreaming, okay, and you get up horrified. It was a nightmare, okay. So some tiger was getting after you and was chasing you through the forest, and you wake up, oh my God. Once you wake up, you realize, oh, that was just a dream. Now, at this point, if someone were to tell you to re enter the dream at that stage, you will go with a different attitude completely. You will not be scared of what is happening in the dream. because you understand that it is a dream. It is nothing but a projection of your own mind. So, or your own gunas, your own vasanas, right? So you're not bothered. And in this particular verse, when we are talking, the gunas are being represented by their effects. So when he says light, it means sattva. Activity means rajas or implies rajas, and delusion means tamas. So this is how the gunas are or mentioned in this verse. So a wise person is beyond the gunas. Presence of any of them does not perturb him. Absence does not make him hanker for a guna. I mean, if it's a high quality guna, it doesn't think, because he has gone beyond the gunas. Such a person understands that the gunas together nor individually have nothing to offer, that the person has not already attained. So, see, it's just like we all are, and in the stock market, and it's booming, so we feel happy. Some months back it was not booming, so we were sad. Now the point is that a millionaire is not affected by a gain of, let's say, 5,000 bucks, but a poor person is. To him or her, it really means a lot of things. So, a wise person who has extricated himself beyond the entanglements of the gunas is not bothered by what is happening in the material layers, and therefore he does not protest against them. But, a person who is attached to the gunas is affected by them. So, a person beyond the gunas functions independent of the gunas. The person is not even anxious to get the sattvic quality in himself. He understands that the whatever vasanas are there have to be exhausted. He transcends the equipment of the mind and the intellect and actually lives anchored in that infinite bliss of the Paramatman or Brahman or self. So he is in a different plane of consciousness. Let's move on to the last verse for the day. उदासीनवदासीनो गुणैर्यो न विचाल्यते गुणावर्तन्त एत्येव योऽवतिष्ठति नेङ्गते. So it translates to, he who seated like one unconcerned is not moved by the gunas, who knowing that the gunas function is firm and moves not. So let's take this up word by word. Udaseena. So udasin is someone who is indifferent. Udasin vat becomes like one unconcerned. Asin is jo asan pe baitha hai or seated. Gune is by the gunas. Yah who, na not, vichalyate or vichlit hota hai is moved, disturbed. Guna is, of course, gunas. Vartante is functions or acts. Iti thus, eve only, ya, he who. Avatishtati is firm, resolute. Na not. Ingyate moves. Right. So he who seated like one unconcerned is not moved by the gunas, who knowing that the gunas operate or will function is firm and moves not. So let's chant it together. उदासीनवदासीनो गुणैर्यो न विचाल्यते गुणावर्तन्त एत्येव योऽवतिष्ठति नेङ्गते. So we now come to the second question of Arjun's. And what does Krishna say? And actually from here, it's a set of 3 verses. Including this, the next 2 verses will cover how the person of perfection relates to the objects and beings of the world. So the person understands the role of gunas. He understands that the gunas will manifest in different distinct ways. That's how it's happening in the world. That's how it's happening within him. So he objectively sees everyone functioning according to the gunas. So, a person who is flamboyant will be flamboyant. A person who is um, not so flamboyant, or, is more an introverted kind of a person, will function in that manner. He's not he's not disturbed by the functioning of the gunas. So he's unmoved or indifferent towards this play of gunas, which is actually a play of mind, just like that film we were talking about, which is projected on an immaculate screen. It could be a tragedy or it could be a comedy, depending upon our state of mind, or depending upon the nature of the some nature of people. That is what is projected. So the wise person understands that the mind will think, the intellect will reason, the body will suffer, it'll grow old, it'll happen. He is indifferent to all this. So whether the mind is agitated or it's in a state of quietude, the intellect is sharp or dull. So all this contrast he is able to handle. It does not bother him. Because a person is no longer identifying with the body, mind and intellect has gone beyond that state. And gunas only function at the level of the body, mind, and intellect. They do not function at the level of the soul, at that level. And it does not mean that a person is totally unconcerned with what is happening. See, the expression used is udasinavat, which means like someone who is unconcerned. It implies that he is not affected. He does not become hysterical when there is sorrow or suffering within himself or outside himself, you know. So he's able to he's able to face all situations. And if you've seen a kaleidoscope, so that's just a piece of glass tube with mirror at the end, and you put small pieces of broken bangles, etc. And as you move, the images change, and it's such a brilliant, brilliant patterns that you see on the mirror in front of you. That's exactly the way he understands his gunas are throwing different projections. It's a kaleidoscopic change of the gunas within him. And he understands that the world outside changes according to one's mental condition. So if it's gloomy, if it's a gloomy, rainy day, you also start feeling gloomy. It does affect you. If it is bright and sunny, you love to go out. If it is polluted, gray, hazy day, then you're suffering, go out with your mask or whatever it is. But the wise one is unaffected. He'll wear a mask and go out. But it doesn't bother him. How many of us will complain? See, even now we have to wear masks, and it's only October or September. Imagine what will happen in December. So, we go on and on about it. So, such a person is not tossed about, by the gunas. He or she lives their life with ease and grace. And we come across people as we move around in the world. Some of them complain a lot. In fact, you don't want to go near those people because all the time they're complaining about something or the other. And some people are unperturbed. Okay, ho gaya, ho gaya, fine, theek ho jayega. And not only that, some of them are unperturbed even in the darkest personal challenges. You will not get to know. Maybe some friend will later tell you that, okay, she was going through such a phase. And you said, really? I mean, I met, chatted, I didn't get to know. So this calmness actually arises if we try to analyze it within ourselves from two things. First is the detachment towards the world, and the second, being on a very, very unshakable, stable platform, which is God. So once we take the support of God within us, which is there in all of us, so that Paramatman, we will become calm also. And both these factors also make us convince us and are make us aware constantly of that Brahman, and also of the world, that the world is nothing but a play of these gunas. So, see, in practice, when we talk about it, what does it mean? When our mind is agitated, let us not crave for a peaceful state. We will not crave. So, that is what the verse is saying on the previous one, that he does not yearn for something. Accept the state, that certain amount of rajas is there in me. It's a part and parcel of my daily life. So, watch the state, calm up, express, and go. And then watch the next state come over. So basically, what are you doing? You are experiencing or you are watching objectively the play of gunas in yourself. So you are at a higher level and you're detached. You become an objective viewer, or what we have been reading as Sakshi of this play of gunas. And this is not only in ourselves, but also in the world. And such a person does not flutter or move or keep on swiveling or swerving from that position of equanimity. So such a person is a master surfer. So when you see in the ocean, there are these surfers who go and the waves are going up and down. The surfer actually enjoys, whereas a person like me would be wondering, oh my God, how will I ride that wave? But so for me, it's a challenge. But for a master surfer, it's, it's an enjoyment, it's a recreation. So ever steady such a person rides life's ups and downs like a rider's rides on the surface on the waves, because he is functioning at the level of the pure consciousness. So with that, we will conclude today's session.